I'm happiest in the saddle.
A fellow sportsman.
I am an FBI agent!
Great Scott!
What do you say we cut the chit-chat? A-hole!
Dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria!
Come with me if you want to live.
Hello, and welcome to Retro Ramble. I'm Charlie McGee.
I'm George McGee.
And this time, we're going to be going back to 1986 to review the cult classic that is John Carpenter's Big Trouble in Little China. Kia! Hiya! With kung fu, mysticism, amazing special effects,
Amazing mullets.
Kurt Russell's amazing mullet,
Kurt Russell's amazing vest.
and is it James Hong, that guy I love in this?
Yes, the amazing James Hong.
So, obviously, we watched this film loads when we were younger. We loved it then. We've watched it again recently, and we love it. I think we both agree for many different reasons, but we still love this film. It's amazing. So the purpose of this podcast is to let you know what we think has changed, share our first memories. For anybody who's listened to these episodes before, you know what to expect. But for everybody else, here's George with a quick word on some general housekeeping.
Yes, so we are film lovers. We are not film professionals, but this podcast is all about Charlie and myself, who are brothers, going back and having a look at the films that we grew up with, having a bit of fun with them, having a look, see whether they still hold up, what makes them so great, how they've had an influence on future films. Because it's a review, we are going to be delving into spoilers from the very off. We're going to be talking about sort of how these films came to be. Because we can be very immature, there will be some bad impressions and there will be some colourful language.
Yeah, and we will focus on immature things. We watch these films at a very young age, and we remember what is great through the eyes of very young people.
Put yourself into a child.
Yeah, that is one way of putting it, Mr. Neverland. So, without any further ado, we're going to hop into Pork Chop Express.
Pork Chop Express.
We're going to get a giant-sized Subway sandwich, and we're going to be sprouting some amazing philosophy that we hope other people are picking up, just like Jack Burton.
Have you paid your dues, sir? Yes, sir. Check's in the mail.
Awesome. So, without further ado, here's the show. Enjoy.
Enjoy.
Is a hidden world where ancient evil weaves a modern mystery.
What's going on here? Is this some kind of
magic? The darkest magic.
They call it Little China. It's where Big Trouble was waiting for Jack Burton.
Who? Jack Burton. Me.
Jack?
They told him to go to hell.
You make one move.
That's just where he's going.
Somebody, I don't care who, tell me what is going on.
There are many mysteries, many unanswerable questions, even in a life as short as yours.
You ready, Jack? I was born ready.
Jack Burton's coming to rescue your summer.
Hey, what more can a guy ask for?
20th Century Fox presents Kurt Russell in John Carpenter's Big Trouble in Little China.
So, George, Big Trouble in Little China. What are your first memories of this amazing cult classic film?
First memories, being terrified. You know me, I'm easily scared.
You were quite a young lad, because we wouldn't have watched this at the cinema.
I was a young lad once.
I was young once. Yeah, so before, obviously we didn't see this at the cinema. I would have been 7 when it was at the cinema. You would have been younger.
3.
Can't count. So we watched this on TV or on video from TV.
Yeah, you and I were talking about this beforehand, and yeah, definitely recorded off video. As but all our first memory stories usually involve some good friends. I'm pretty sure this was at our friends, our nearby friends, the Feenies, not the Glendennings.
You think it was a Feenies?
Yeah.
Feenies. This is much more down there.
I think this was a George and Jamie classic.
Rather than the Glendennings who were just trying to terrify us.
With aliens and Corey Haim movies. also Terminator. So yeah, I have sort of weird memories of, I remember being terrified of Lopan, the David Lopan.
David Lopan?
Yes, I do mean David Lopan. Being touched on this in previous episodes, being confused. Is that Kurt Russell? Is it Patrick Swayze? They both have.
Who cares?
They both have amazing hair.
And they're both so beautiful.
And yeah, I remember us having a lot of fun with it. I remember us laughing a lot, and I think it has had a bit of an imprint on our sense of humour. Not just you and I, but also our friends as well.
Yeah, as I think we also mentioned in the pre-ramble that we like to do. Yeah, that we remember the movie poster. So like one of our friends definitely had the poster, or maybe they just actually bought the VHS and we remember it from the VHS box.
Yeah, selective memory.
Yeah, but I remember, I have a vision of seeing this in the paper and wanting to watch, it was on terrestrial television. We didn't have to rely on a VHS. It was on, like, say, Channel 4 or something like that. And it was the typical type of film. And as I said before, I used to get confused between this and The Little Shop of Horrors.
Very similar posters.
And you could say structure of film title.
True.
But yeah, so many memories, and yeah, going back and watching this again, it was obviously great fun. And I did not realise, I knew that this was a John Carpenter and Kurt Russell film. I also knew that they'd worked together on The Thing, but I didn't realise
they had a beautiful partnership.
Yeah, and how many things they'd done together. So that leads us nicely into where we normally like to start. George is going to flex his movie knowledge and let us know how this film was made possible.
Yeah, so it's a bit of a tricky one because, as our listeners may know, I myself, I'd probably say, speaking for both of us, we're not huge horror fans.
No, this is the type of horror we would like. So, like, say, an Alien or
Ghostbusters, horror comedy
or intelligent comedy,
or smart horror.
I think we're a bit snobby. We don't like the cheap scares, sort of hammer horror type thing.
I'm easily scared, so I definitely don't like the cheap scares. But so I a little bit of a sort of an apology. I realised that John Carpenter has a huge following. He's a godfather of horror movies. He's the man that changed the sort of the genre with Halloween. That was one of his first films.
I couldn't believe all these films that he's made.
And he's a very talented man because he's a writer, he's a director, and he'd even go far as writing the theme tune. I mean, the music. So he's really into his music. He's really into his electronic music as well. So I think he actually recently went on tour playing his soundtracks, like synth soundtracks around America.
I now have this vision of him in the director's chair in a cage of synth.
In a cage of synths, yeah. So yeah, that's how he kind of made his name. I think he started out with a sort of student film called Dark Star, which was a very low budget sort of sci-fi comedy that I used to have on DVD and tried to watch and couldn't get into it. But it's supposed to have, its strengths. But yeah, Halloween was his breakout hit in 78, I think. Then he, in 79, he worked with Kurt Russell on a TV movie on a biopic of Elvis Presley, with our favourite man, Kurt Russell, playing Elvis Presley, which neither of us have seen, but
want to see as soon as possible.
Yes, we need to see that film as soon as possible. So that's their first film. Then they quickly made another film. So 1981, cult classic and potentially a future retro Rambo film, Escape from New York, which was, a real, again, sort of a very clever, great premise, sci-fi in the gritty future of 1997.
You love that film. I remember when we were younger, and I think I was trying to work out, is it the synths? Is it the Kurt Russell?
Is it the eye patch?
Is it the eye patch? And you're like, you're damn straight. It's all three of them.
It's all of them. So, and then they did, probably, I would argue, again, another, we could have easily done a sort of a Kurt Russell special, but we probably would have been talking...
he deserves more than that.
Or a Kurt Russell, John Carpenter special, but we would have been talking for hours. But again, I think...
we're going to break it up into bite-sized chunks.
I think you and I, we would love to do the Thing at some point. So that was 1982, and that is probably one of my favourite horror films. I think it's a brilliant sci-fi horror, very tense.
I watched it again recently because of Big Trouble, and I wanted to get in the mood, and I was just like, I just wanted to watch it again, and yeah, once again, just love that film.
It's a very different beast. Excuse the pun.
And it's a very different very different Kurt Russell. So, and for some reason, John Carpenter has let our friend Morcone on the soundtrack for that. But we'll get to The Thing when the time is right.
So how this film came around? So this wasn't written by John Carpenter. It was actually bizarrely originally written as a Western.
I've heard this, yes.
So it was still set in San Francisco, but instead of Jack losing his truck, he lost his horse, and he was trying to get his horse back.
That used to be a big deal back in the day.
So yeah, the first version was written by two first-time screenwriters, Gary Goldman, who and David Z. Weinstein. But yeah, Gary Goldman went on to write one of the final drafts of a little film called Total Recall. So yeah, he went on to have a bit of a writing partnership with Paul Verhoeven, so links back to some of our previous episodes. But yeah, the script was inspired by the new wave, that sort of the martial arts scene was slowly coming in, from the East in the late 70s, those kung fu movies, and sort of crossing over into Hollywood in the 80s. So that Oriental mysticism and with a modern sensibility. So the production company bought the script and, in classic Hollywood fashion, loved the script. Who can we get to rewrite it
for American audiences?
Yeah, so they rewrote it. They still didn't like the results, so they brought on a new writer, a guy called W.D. Richter, who wrote and directed a cult classic film which I've never seen, and I'm assuming you haven't, called Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension.
Sounds amazing.
We have to watch it, because if I just divulge some of the cast: Peter Weller, Mr. Robocop himself,
right?
John Lithgow,
sold,
and Jeff Goldblum in sort of weird sci-fi.
Why haven't we watched this?
So I think we need to discover that. So yeah, he completely rewrote the film, as he didn't feel the Wild West and the fancy elements worked together, so he modernized everything, brought it into present day, and discarded much of the script apart from Lopan's story.
So do you think in the Western version, Jack Burton was driving a cart full of pigs and that's why they kept the Pork Chop Express?
Possibly. But the thing is, we've obviously seen Kurt Russell in many Westerns, and I can kind of envisage it now. It could kind of work with Kurt Russell.
A cheese dream version of Big Trouble in Little China. Okay, so anything else on the production side of things worth mentioning at this stage? Because I think we're going to be talking about, obviously, credit where it's due, the special effects, the music, the decisions that were made on the genre mashup, the different genres, I think, throughout.
Well, I think a couple of other things. So
let's at least pretend we're organised.
Obviously, we're going to talk about some casting choices later on in Coulda, Woulda, Shoulda. But interestingly, Kurt Russell says on the DVD commentary that he was afraid of starring in the movie because at that time he'd made a bunch of movies that had flopped at the box office, including The Thing. The Thing wasn't a hit. It came out in a very crowded summer of 81, so I think it was the summer of E.T. and stuff like that, and Blade Runner, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Temple of Doom. Was that
Raiders of the Lost Ark?
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
We covered that in the podcast. You remember that, George?
It was at least a year ago.
Yeah.
He was worried that it was going to be another flop, but it was. John Carpenter said it didn't matter to him. He wanted to make the movie with Kurt because he knew Kurt had the goods and he was the man for the job.
It was a wise choice.
Very wise choice. And Kurt Russell goes on to say, if it hadn't been for the home video market, which was emerging in the 80s, he wouldn't have a career.
Well, yeah, and I think, for these films that he made with Carpenter, he wouldn't have a career as well, because this was a guy who, was saying, this is who we should go for.
Well, that's it. I mean, even though, and in a way, Kurt Russell was right, because this film was actually flopped at the box office, and it's one of those. At the time when they did, a lot of these Hollywood films, they'll do test screenings to get, audience engagement, see if they need to tweak it, and it scored really highly. On the score, it's tested the highest sort of rating of 95%. And when they were doing the junket, they say, again, on the commentary, they say that loads of reporters were saying to them, this movie's going to be huge. You know, how do you feel this is going to be this is going to be the hit of the summer?
I felt rewatching this recently, I was like, this would have been amazing to see at the cinema. The special effects, all of the things, because I mean, back then these would have been groundbreaking, never seen before type special effects back in '86.
And it's a really unique film. You know, it's
goofy, self-aware, funny, scary,
and ultimately
bizarre.
Yeah, and ultimately that is probably why it failed at the box office, because they didn't know nobody didn't know who to attract. Yeah, they didn't know how to market it. And at the same time, Aliens was just about to be released I think 2 weeks afterwards, and there was a massive hype behind that. And yeah, they basically, you know, Carpenter and Russell said, you know, it didn't have the biggest marketing budget, and ultimately the studio didn't know how to promote it, because they just didn't know.
And didn't they have to? Sorry, Charlie trivia here. Didn't they have to redo the start? And they changed it a bit.
Yes. So the opening, there's an opening flash forward where a lawyer is interviewing Egg Chun, the sort of the Oriental warrior, the good guy.
It was the 80s, lawyers.
Yeah, and basically, the studio insisted that they write a scene where, just to clarify, that Jack Burton is the hero of the story.
Because it's not actually that clear if you take that scene out.
Even though he actually isn't, he is the sidekick.
Yeah, the fumbling, knocking himself out sidekick.
So that is the sort of... and obviously, the other thing that Kurt Russell goes on to say is, you know, it's obviously... There were so many influences in the film. It was, mixing Chinese legend. And the other thing was that there was only a handful of non-Asian actors in the cast. So that was another sort of like, who's in it? Obviously, you know, Kurt Russell wasn't a huge star. Kim Cattrall had been in a few sort of like films like Porky's, so it wasn't like a star vehicle either. So yeah, that's
does that bring us to cast? Should we talk about the cast now, or do you want to talk about it just their performances throughout?
Yeah, I think we just talk about it throughout. So I mean, yeah, obviously we've touched on, you've got that opening flash forward, which is, it's just hilarious that they insist that, you know, Jack Burton is a hero.
Yeah.
Well, he's a bit of a buffoon.
Yeah, but a lovable one. And yeah, as you're saying, they're obviously mixed up in how to market this. And then it jumps forward.
So we see Jack on the road in his truck. So that's how the film's supposed to open. So when the credits start, you see Jack on the road in the Pork Chop Express. Carpenter's on his synth's going nuts.
Do you regret missing out on the whole CB scene? You know, just getting on your radio and...
I remember me and some of my friends actually bought walkie-talkies. We went through a walkie-talkie phase.
I remember a friend of mine having a CB and knowing all the things. What's your 20? And like, yeah,
what's a turn for, good buddy?
Yeah, well, it's all of that stuff, and you got to have a call sign, and they'd have them in their rooms, and they'd be talking to truckers. I didn't really get into it.
And talking to strange grown men.
Yeah, that's the thing. I was rewatching is that I didn't realize Kurt Russell was a bit of a depressed trucker, because when you see him pull over, basically he's
monologuing.
He's monologuing. He's trucking. Then he arrives and he drinks and he plays cards and he wins.
There's lots of very irresponsible drink driving in this film. He's doing lots of drinking and driving that big truck around.
Yeah, but let's not judge.
Let's not judge. It was the 80s. It was a different time.
Yeah. Whereas these days they're probably just taking a little bit of speed just to stay awake.
Oh, God.
So we're introduced to Dennis Dunn.
Yes, Dennis Dunn, also known as Wang.
Yeah, I just thought there was like, okay, so what he's going to say his name over and over again. Come on, it'll be funny. A guy saying Wang.
Come on, Wang. And we've got some great... so Jack gets lucky in the game, whatever game they're playing.
Whatever game that is.
Whatever game that is. And there's some lovely foreshadowing of Jack being really good at... It's all in the reflexes.
It's all in the reflexes.
One of the most quotable lines.
Yeah. And then, for some reason, Jack goes...
It's to collect his money.
Oh, it's to collect...
Just before I give you my money, I've got to go and pick up this girl from the airport.
My exotic girlfirm from the airport.
Yeah, so basically, he's the hero of this film, is Dennis Dunn's character.
Yes.
Overshadowed. But then we're fast forward, we go to the airport.
There's gangsters there.
More synth.
It's a great scene. It's a great sort of example of mounting tension. There's some great moments of comedy. So we get the first glimpse of the lovely Kim Cattrall.
And the chemistry between the two of them is very believable, I think, throughout this film. I loved it between her and...
But there's a great moment of, like, it's just a typical sight gag of Kurt Russell's checking out Kim Cattrall, turns away, Cattrall moves away, and then there's that sweet old Chinese lady eyeing up Kurt Russell. He's like, oh no, you're not her. So yeah, that's a great moment. And then
the gangster's sunglasses are amazing.
So 80s.
Where the hell is airport security? When this kidnapping goes down and they're brandishing guns in
knives and everything.
Yeah, that would not.
Again, it was the 80s. Yeah. It didn't matter.
Look, if you needed to kidnap somebody from like Arrivals, it was much easier than it would be today.
Exactly. We should really try that sometime. So then that quickly jumps to Mao Yin has been kidnapped. So they chase after her. They end up in Little China in San Francisco. Now this cuts to, I don't know if you could tell, Charlie, but all this alleyway stuff that was built on a studio.
What? Don't piss on my dreams, bro.
But apparently that studio, that set, the whole sort of tight sort of alleyways and stuff, where it was built by a guy called John J. Lloyd, was actually reused loads of times. So it was built on the Fox lot, and I think it featured in a Janet Jackson video.
That's where I know it from.
Don't ask me what song. I don't know what it is.
What, you don't got a back catalogue? Okay, so George, how big is Little China? Because this film makes you believe it's an entire underworld, obviously.
Obviously on the studio it's only about three streets.
Okay.
But apparently Kurt had to learn to drive the truck through this very tight set.
I was saying they'll get stunt drivers.
No. He was actually driving. I don't think he did the sort of the road stuff, but he had to drive it on the set, which he said was quite tricky. It was quite tight, apparently.
Very tight corners.
Very tight. And then we quickly get to the gang war between the two warring sides.
Amazing kung fu.
Did you notice the familiar henchmen?
I've made a note of this. So, henchman from Die Hard, check. Yeah. Henchman from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, check.
Yeah, he's also the henchman in Lethal Weapon as well.
Which, the guy with the Fu Manchu moustache, or the bald guy?
Oh no,
the bald guy's from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Right.
I can't believe I can't believe you've blacked that film out.
And he's also in. I think he is the compare fight coordinator in Hot Shots Part 2. When they're ripping off the Rambo 3 thing.
Yeah, and he gets his head squashed when they kick together.
I think that's the same guy.
Yeah. So it is Rent a henchman. Rent an 80s henchman.
So yeah, you've got the henchman from Lethal Weapon and Die Hard. He's called Al Leong. And I think it's a really interesting mix of weapons in this gang fight. You've got Uzis, AKs, and a Tommy gun. Yeah,
throughout, I thought I liked it. It was like a mini battle in there. Okay, so they start with the guns, and then it's close contact. Drop the guns.
Well, that's what I really liked. It was actually, obviously, it's not a realistic film, but
what?
I like.
Shut up.
I like that realism of the fact that they only fight hand to hand when they've run out of bullets.
Yeah. So it's a limited.
Unlike most sort of Van Damme movies, where it's just like, no, I could easily shoot this man. Why didn't you shoot him in the head? No, I'm going to take him on one by one.
One at a time. I thought the choreography of the fights was very good. There's you get the warring factions, and as you've said to me before in some podcasts, we are watching this through the eyes of Jack Burton. So like, what's going on here, Wang?
Yeah, exactly. And Jack isn't a hero. He doesn't get involved. But quickly, I've got my notes here. I'm pretty sure some of these stuntmen aren't Chinese.
I noticed that as well, that they've just darkened their skin and given them mustaches. Like, you're not Chinese. It's like, shut up.
Put a bandana on.
You're not even Korean. It's like, just put a bandana on, darken their skin, and give them a mustache.
So quickly, we are introduced to, I think they are the Three Storms.
Yes, that's what they're called.
The Three Storms. So
rain,
thunder.
Is it wind?
Lightning.
Been funny.
Why is that? Because it's basically Raiden from Mortal Kombat.
What came first, though? These guys or Raiden from Mortal Kombat?
These guys.
Well, exactly, and they're probably connected to some like ancient myth of.
Yeah, and I think they featured in some kung fu movies. I think they are ripped off from elsewhere, but I think I'm pretty sure the makers of Mortal Kombat have come out and said this film, as unsurprisingly, is a bit of an influence on.
Well, that is it. As we've said before, how Johnny Cage from Mortal Kombat is a bit of Van Damme, and obviously we'll get to David Lopan is
Mr. Lopan, David Lopan
for Shang Tsung. So yeah, there's a lot of what would later become 90s pop culture David Lopan?
Well, we get to that part. So the themes, I love that the three storms reveal their weapons. There's knives, there's spitting blades, and there's a guy who's got the extendable back scratchers.
Did you notice what I never noticed before about that is I always thought that it was a special effect that they were just spinning around in his hand.
Yeah.
But this time I noticed that they're actually attached to a ring.
Yeah, and
it spins around the ring. And how does it? But how? I know it's a special effect, but how would that work as a practical weapon? Anyway.
Yeah, when you get close, oh no, I've chopped my fingers off.
Yeah, don't get too close.
And then we are introduced to, well, they try and run over Lopan.
David Lopan. Did you know? Okay, so did you realise that this guy, in how many films he's been in?
Please indulge me because I know he's been in lots.
I had to check.
So this is actor James Hong.
Yeah, James Hong, who we know and love, has been... some of you may more recently, a film that we're definitely going to get round to giving some credit, some due, Wayne's World 2 as Cassandra's dad, where they have this hilarious kung fu fight and then they dub over the fight. But he has appeared in over 400 films, lots of small roles apparently. But he is the Chinese guy or Japanese guy who kills himself in Airplane when Ted Stryker is giving his story. He commits...
that's right.
He commits, what's it called? Harikiri on himself. So that's just one example.
I could go on, but I wouldn't want to bore you.
Yeah, and he's in Blade Runner. He's the eye guy.
Yes.
I only do eyes. Sorry, some terrible impressions.
Slightly racist, but never mind.
It's me trying to do an accurate Chinese impression.
But no, he's got an amazing career, and they talk about this on the DVD that apparently he started his career doing USO shows in World War II. So he was doing proper sort of variety shows, and that's why he's very good at comedy, physical comedy. But he's also, he can be we need a bad Asian bad guy. Who can we get?
The reason I know he's been in 417 films and I knew he's been Blair is I'm obsessed with this guy now. After rewatching this film, I realised how much
I think he's still working now. He must be in his late 80s. Might be late 80s.
He's 88. Okay, so...
really done his homework this time.
No, but I love his presence, and I think...
And he's got such a distinct voice as well. Because he's done loads of animated stuff.
Yeah, he's been the bad guy in a few animated things, but there's a line that he comes out with in the film. I think it's when he's old man Lopan later on.
My favourite stage of Lopan.
When he says,
I smell the blood of human beings. Find them, boil them until their flesh falls off.
But there's some hilarious lines from him and just brilliant delivery, and you can tell because it said later on in his career that, like with Wayne's World, that it was comedy was always the thing that attracted him the most. We love you, James Hong.
We do love you, and apparently Kurt Russell says that out of everybody, James Hong totally got this movie the most. Like other than John Carpenter, he was the one's like, yeah, I get it. I get what you're going for. So yes, moving quickly on to second act. So we get to hear more general exposition.
Oh my God, exposition, buddy.
With Gracie Law and her friend Margot.
I mean, that's hilarious. David Lopan?
The David Lopan.
Let's have a listen.
Lopan.
Yes.
The godfather of Little China, Mr. David Lopan.
You mean the David Lopan that's chairman of the National Orient Bank and owns the Wing Kong Import-Export Trading Company, but who's so reclusive that no one's even laid eyes on this guy in years?
Who the hell are you, anyway?
Blagging into buildings was much easier in the 1980s, is what I'm thinking. The way they go in with an unplugged phone.
An unplugged phone. No, but there's the first bit, which is one of my favourite scenes, is when Kurt has to go undercover as...
Oh, what's he called again?
Henry Swanson's the name. Excitement's my game.
He's amazing. I'm
going to start saying that. Obviously not the Henry Swanson part, but just saying George McKee's the name. Excitement's my game.
Kurt showing his range, though.
He's brilliant. He's so smarmy, and he's really having fun, isn't he?
Well, character within a character.
Yeah. So we get the big exposition dump about the sort of the world beneath the world.
This film it's the only, no, I wouldn't even say it's a criticism. It was something that made me laugh going back and rewatching it is, I guess because we're looking through the eyes of Jack Burton, there is so much exposition. Everything has to be explained to him. And everything is by numerous sidekicks. And some of them, you could say a lot like Egg, what's his face?
Egg Chung.
And Dennis Dunn's character...
Wang.
Thanks, I'm glad you're remembering all the names. And they're all just, they seem, in a lot of it, they're just there to fight and basically deliver I wouldn't say economic exposition. Some of it's quite long-winded.
It's not economic, no. But yeah, that's when we first get to meet. So they infiltrate, they do the whole, oh yeah, your phone's broken type thing, looking for Miao Yin. And they encounter old man Lopan, where, yeah, even under tons of prosthetics, James Hong is hilarious. Indeed. And yeah, his one of my favourite quotes is when he's so creepy. And then he the bit where he sees like them appear on the CCTV and he's like, now that really pisses me off. He's like wheeling around and he's really grumpy and creepy. I love him. I want to see more of old man Lopan. But yeah, I think despite the some clunky exposition, this film has it's really good at myth building and world building, and it has a really great sense of pace. Like, it feels really tightly edited and it zips along.
Well, yeah, because it's like introduction, and then there's phase 1 where they go there for the first time, and then phase 2 is through the underworld. Just going to that bit with Egg Shen, what's his name? Egg Chen. Oh yeah, this in the corner of my room. Yeah, of course I've got a stripper pole down into the underworld.
Stripper pole into the underworld. Love it.
Don't you?
Well, bizarrely enough, does that fire station look familiar?
Oh, don't tell me it's from Ghostbusters.
It is. It's the same set. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. That's not till Act 3 because.
We've got that creepy. When's the creepy ceremony?
We haven't. We've still got a bit. So we've got the initial sort of rescue where they Kurt and Co. They go to rescue.
Oh, they're successful.
Margot and Gracie, and there's a brilliant bit in the so you've got the first signs that Jack might not be the hero we were all thinking he's going to be, where he does nothing. It's all down to, I think, it's Eddie and Wang. Yeah. They're taking on the Kung Fu girls, but Kurt does some great, impressive shimmying along. But it's brilliant on the commentary. Kurt Russell plays our game, Spot the Stuntman, because this guy's shimmying along. And he's like, "That's definitely not me. That's not me. That's his stuntman." And then we get the first glimpse of the big hairy monster.
Yeah, what is that thing? Just the eyes and some very silly monsters, very silly looking monsters.
But yeah, there's more scenes of like when they're trying to escape, Kurt being completely useless. So
is that when he flies the knife out of the boot?
Yeah, so he's trying to get his knife out. He's dropping the knife. Meanwhile, it's like Wang's taking on everybody. Yeah, and by the time he sort of pulls himself together, they've all been knocked out.
I do remember that thing where he jumps back with wielding the knife and the gun, and it's all over. But I think what I missed when I was younger was the complete fluff he makes with the knife going out of his boot.
Oh yeah, I mean. Kurt's look in this. Can we just spend a moment to appreciate you've got obviously the amazing hair, which something John Carpenter points out in the commentary is like, you had really good hair back in that era, didn't you, Kurt? And he's like, well, I tried. But the vest tucked into the jeans,
what a wife beater,
moccasin boots. It's a strong look.
I think there's reasons why.
Double denim.
I think isn't that in a homage to the John Wayne thing, the cowboy boots?
I think so, yeah. They have talked about that if Snake Plissken, his character from Escape from New York, is a bit of a homage to Clint Eastwood, this is definitely, it links back to its Western roots. This is a bit of a piss take of John Wayne, the way his speech pattern is a bit John Wayne-esque.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we quickly get to Egg Chen's garage office, which is the place from Ghostbusters. We get Lopan's rituals where
creepy ceremony.
Creepy ceremony where the girls are slowly hypnotized by amazing kung fu skills.
Give them a demonstration.
Keep dancing.
Just keep dancing, yeah.
Keep dancing. And then they float up to the ceiling and...
holding onto a sword.
And touch the light bulb. For reasons.
Holding onto a sword until they touch the light and climax. I mean, until the ceremony's over.
And yes, Lopan's really enjoying himself. So yeah, we get the good guys travel through the underworld.
Down the stripper pole?
Down the stripper pole into the underworld, loving the use of dried ice, random hidden monsters, that massive hit monster that just pops out and eats a guy randomly.
Yeah, and then he's like thrown away by by a cherry bomb or something.
It's fine.
When do they do the weird homoerotic? They have a shot. They have some roofie.
What you mean when they're all buzzing their faces off in the lift?
because Egg Chung, what's his name, makes them a
magic potion,
a roofie colada,
and they're all just in the lift together, all just looking at each other, smiling. Just
I'm having a good time. I'm really pumped.
Guess I feel invincible.
And then it gets awkward really quickly, and he's like, you could tell that they're all looking at him, and he's like, I need to get out of here. We're all too aroused.
I'm in a lift with many men.
I feel kind of invincible.
Me too. I got a very positive attitude about this.
Good, me too.
Yeah.
Is it getting hot in here, or is it just me?
We get to see Lopan's amazing hidden temple, very ancient temple, complete with neon lighting and escalator.
And don't forget the skull that only opens via lightning.
Very practical.
So is this when we get the final showdown where when all the ninjas get together and have a fight?
Yes. So we have that amazing. We've skipped over the weird floating eye monster, which I think might be an influence on Doom. I'm sure there was something similar on the game Doom with floating.
Well, pretty much half the monsters in Doom are floating evil eye monsters. Yeah. So yeah, but you can tell that's very much groundbreaking
effects,
never-ending story type effects.
Never-ending story. Sorry,
lost you there. But. So we're at that final showdown. You've got Wang and all of his buddies doing that really cool sign. So they knock someone over
with the fingers,
and then they look across the crowd, and then they just make that knowing sort of salute with the fingers. Like
Charlie and I just pointing at each other with our fingers.
We're both doing like wah. George, I've got one question about this fight. You know, you're in the middle of a massive street fight.
Yeah.
Is flipping faster than running?
No, but it looks a lot cooler.
Because that bit where he's just...
And I'm pretty sure that isn't Dennis Dunn.
There's a lot of gymnastic flipping. I'm just like, just run. It's like...
But it was the style at the time. It's obviously that homage to Kung Fu movies. But we've glossed over one of the biggest gags in this film is the brilliant thing. They all go out ready for action, and they're all really pumped up on the magic potion. Jack fires his gun in the air and knocks himself out.
That's great. That's in all of the trailers. Yeah. It's
and I remember us just even though we'd seen it tons of times as kids, that was
a highlight. Yeah, it's like wait, he's gonna knock himself out.
And then even when he pulls himself together, he's got that whole bit where he stabs one of the guards and the guard falls on top of him and he's like struggling to get up. And meanwhile, everyone's like taking out. You've got
he is useless throughout this as a hero.
And you've got meanwhile Wang's doing he's flying through the air, fighting one of the storms, having that sword fight back and forth.
The Kung Fu in that, I don't think we've both watched enough of these classic films that they're referencing. I think we've watched a few of them.
I mean, we haven't watched any sort of proper hardcore 70s martial arts films, but
because we talked about this before about the Sonny Chiba thing, we've caught one or two, but the fighting in midair, jumping really high up in the air just for one punch, and then running about and then jumping up again in the air, it's a brilliant fight.
It's funny when I think at the time of recording the commentary, Crouching Tiger's just come out, and Carpenter talks about it. He's like, Kurt, have you seen that Crouching Tiger film? And he's like, no, but I heard it looks good. And he's like, it's awesome. Yeah, so you got to see it. So yeah, I think he was, trying to ape that sort of 70s kung fu style. And then there's the other great bit. I mean, we are sort of whizzing through this, but so Jack goes to rescue Kim Cattrall. He has a passionate kiss with her, and he's got the lipstick all over him.
That's a brilliant scene when he's...
And that was completely ad-libbed. They just, that happened at the time. It was like, we should really take that off. It's like, no, leave it on.
But it's also the one scene in the film where he's trying to prove to everyone that he's the hero, and he gives this really bolshy speech about how they're not going to stand up. You may think that this works, it doesn't work here. And then afterwards she's like, you're covered in lipstick.
Yeah, he's like wiping it off him.
They've got great chemistry between the two of them, very believable, which...
Yeah, I mean, it's a funny one, Kim Cattrall. I was like, there was times I was like, oh, is she a bit of a ropey actress? But she's very good in this role. And I think she makes the best of the dialogue she's given.
Yeah, I mean, obviously she made her David Schwimmer money with Sex and the City many years later.
Yes.
Where she found the role that she was born to play, sort of thing. But you could tell that this was what came before, and this was sort of like...
Yeah, she's brilliant at physical comedy.
Yeah, very aware. But I just picked up on the fact that they make a nice couple, and you kind of wish that they get together, but that's sort of left unanswered.
Well, yeah, we've glossed over more James Hong squealing with delight as he's becoming more and more human, as he's pushing pins into Mao Yin, my Mao Yin, and he's like.
Honestly, we just need more.
I think I need James Hong squealing as my ringtone.
make it happen. People won't look at you weird at all.
Well, I mean, I've currently got Alan Partridge sighing as my current message tone. Which
I wondered what the hell that was earlier.
I do get some funny looks when that comes up, but I keep it on.
Well, no, we have skipped through the film, but I think the reason for that is that it's kind of like what we remember, and I'm sure loads of you have different things that you love about it. There's some great, there's the guy exploding, the expanding stuff, but we don't want to just go through every single beat of this film.
And it is quite a short film. I think it's 1 hour 40, so it does. I say
it's barely that. I think it's 136, George. 136. Yeah, but we're trying to give you, if anybody's on the fence about whether or not they should go back and watch this film, we don't want to spoil everything.
Oh no, and it's as I say, it's got a great sense of pace. It's as you say, it's got good 3-act structure. It's got a lot of some great action scenes. And a lot of comedy. It's very different from Carpenter's other films. As I say, I'm not...
It's very different from most films, George.
that is true. That is true. I mean, yeah, as I say, I can't wholeheartedly, wax lyrical about, his other work. I mean, I'm told Halloween is one of the greatest, examples in the horror genre. And he is he's a very talented guy, and it's weird. He started so strong in the sort of 70s and 80s, and then it kind of went a bit downhill towards sort of the 90s.
Well, yeah, because I in my James Hong appreciation research, when I was going on when I fell down the rabbit warren that is everything Hong, I found that they were saying that he had Starman after this.
But Starman was before.
Was it 84? Somebody said that it was the reception of this film which left him a bit disenfranchised with Hollywood in general.
Yeah, I think he did. He did a lot of stuff through independent studios after this because of the way it was handled.
I'm going back on the road. I don't believe in anything no more.
Going back on the road with my synth.
Yeah,
synth and a lock of Kurt's mullet.
Yeah, so, and it's left you, because we talked about this before, it's quite a slightly ambiguous ending.
Well, it's ambiguous,
or weird.
It's non-formulaic. It's not I suppose in a way it does. Again, it ties into that John Wayne Western thing, the fact that it's him, like the whole ending of The Searchers,
rustling out of town.
Well, that's it. No, it's like he saved the day and then he goes back on the road by himself. It's like whilst he's had the girl and he's kissed her, and he even's like, oh, you're not going to kiss her, and he goes, no, and he just walks off, and it's a very untraditional ending.
Maybe he's got a date with Lopez.
But Kurt, where are you?
You have green eyes.
I have never noticed. But no, it's funny because you've got that kind of that sequel bait at the end. So you've got Jack drinking and driving, chatting on the CB radio, but what's it? Monsters on the back.
Of course, yeah. But that's the classic, oh, it's still alive.
Well, I thought that was sequel bait, and apparently they said, no, they love doing an ambiguous ending. So they, again, like The Thing, they really fought for that ambiguous ending, that they didn't feel that you have to wrap everything up. It's great to take people on a journey and leave things up in the air.
Well, it shows what sort of what movie maker he is.
Yeah, and yeah, they've obviously got a great partnership. I haven't apparently, through doing my research on this, apparently the commentary that Kurt Russell and John Carpenter do for The Thing is amazing. It's one of the best DVD commentaries out there, so apparently check that out.
Yeah, because they sit down probably with a bowl of scotch.
Yeah, you can hear the ice clinking away apparently. But this one, the commentary on Big Trouble, it's great fun because they haven't caught up for a while, and at one point they just start talking about each other's kids and what is John Carpenter's son's is in a band and stuff like that. So it's a bit meandering, but they have so much fun. They obviously had so much fun making this film.
And they made not just this, but as we've said, many other films. So, George, who else I can't see anybody else playing any other of Kurt Russell's, in any other of the films he's made. Was anybody else considered for this? Is it time to release Jeff and Celine?
I think it is. I think it is time for Coulda, Woulda, Shoulda.
Your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should.
So yeah, there isn't actually much Coulda, Woulda, Shoulda on this. according to the internet, I'm not sure how true this might be, but it sounds like it could work. But apparently, Kurt Russell turned down Highlander to appear in this film.
Wow, that would have been quite a different film.
Which was out same time. But also, apparently, John Carpenter's first choice for the role of Wang was none other than Jackie Chan. But one of the producers was against it, saying he didn't think Chan's English was good enough. So
it's not Jackie Chan.
It's not Jackie Chan. But apparently, but Jackie Chan even declined, despite the studio's fears, and they cast Dennis Dunn instead.
Right. Okay.
Which leads us on to our next feature:
Suspicious Spin-Offs. So this is where George and I basically just like to spitball about spin-offs we'd like to see made, or that didn't happen, remakes, reboots, prequels.
Well, so annoyingly, there is a remake mooted in the works with none other than Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
But of course, because he must be cast in everything. Yeah.
But apparently, I think there's they've said, a bit like the Jumanji thing, it's a remake and a sequel. I don't know how that works, but that is still on the cards. But there's actually been one of our friends of the show, Ben from Top Film Tip, was telling me there's actually a very good comic book series following on the adventures of Jack Burton in his later years, called Old Man Jack.
It's probably worth checking out if you're into comics.
Yeah, so there's a few graphic novels out there. I did manage to get my hands on them in time to have a look, but I think they are, some interesting what could haves with continuing adventures of Jack Burton. But in terms of what I would like to see, Jack Burton is a great character, and it would be great to see him, but him being the bumbling sidekick, it's always, you're going to need someone for him to play off. However, I'm not overly interested in that. I just want to see more adventures of Old Man Lopan.
Oh my god!
Him in the wheelchair, just following around. It could be a sitcom of just him getting annoyed with everyday things. This is really pissing me off.
Old Man Lopan. It would be brilliant. He's like My Two Dads, but it's like two other guys.
I suppose you could leap into Young Man Lopan with him floating through the walls, creeping people out and stuff.
But I want more Lopan.
Trying to touch people up,
Stick pins in Wyland. But no, I'm thinking that, just thinking about it now, a good sequel could be that he's pissed off with Jack Burton and he comes after him. Let's say Jack Burton finally tracks down...
Old Man Lopan comes after him. In one of those motorised scooters.
Yeah, so he finally tracks...
I'm coming for you, Mr. Burton.
Indeed. So he finally tracks down Jack Burton, who settled down with Kim Cattrall's, and he's still after the green eyes, so gets him on his turf. What would be Jack Burton's turf?
What if Old Man Lopan encounters James Hong from Blade Runner, who specialises in eyes?
They both obsessed with eyes.
And then you've got double Hong for your money.
Oh my god, so like double impact.
2 Hong to handle, that's the tagline right there.
He was obsessed with eyes. He specialised in eyes. Yeah, I'd like to see that. We could do it with modern technology, some de-aging. Make it happen. Anybody listening, make it happen.
Make it happen. Even if the Rock has to be in it, just make it happen.
The Rock. Well, I think what I do like about The Rock getting in all these films, it does mean less JFC, less Jai Courtney.
Jai Courtney or John Cena, your other favourite.
John Cena wants to be taken seriously as an actor. He's given up on wrestling, George. How do we get him back into wrestling?
Oh, God knows.
But anyway, so we haven't delved into it too much because, we don't like to dwell too much on these comedies because they are made of funny one-liners and sight gags.
And try as hard as we can, we can't replicate it to its, the finest comedy.
We can for each other, but just not for the enjoyment of anybody listening to this. So,
Indeed.
What have people got to... Well, thanks for downloading this episode. We hope you've enjoyed it. Do you have any idea what we're going to be covering next?
I have no idea what we're going to be doing. I think we might... we've done 80s, so maybe we might jump back to the 90s.
So probably something involving Nicolas Cage.
Maybe something involving...
or John Travolta.
But
not both of them.
But not both. Watch the Skies, coming soon, TBC. But I think it's fair to say, we've had a lot of fun revisiting revisiting this film, and we urge you to go back and check it out. Have a few beers, check it out.
Yeah, and check out the blog, and we are going to get back to John Carpenter and Kurt Russell. I'm sure we're going to do The Thing. We're going to do
what we're going to do? The Thing?
The Thing about The Thing.
Oh, The Thing.
And Escape from New York.
Yeah, I recently rewatched, because it was on Netflix, Escape from LA.
Which is not as good.
And has some very shoddy effects, but it's great seeing, Kurt back in the role.
The patch.
And again, it's one of those, before remakes were kind of, remakes/sequels were popular, it is but essentially a more expensive remake of Escape from New York. But
what was the other one you mentioned to me? Is it They Live?
They Live, yeah, so that's with Roddy Piper.
Which is a film that we didn't watch, or if we did, we only saw bits of it.
No,
so
we never saw it. It is, I heard loads of people talking about it's been referenced in Family Guy. It's a proper cult.
We've had a few people who listen to this podcast ask that we cover it. It would be a bit against Retro Ramble because we didn't watch it.
Against the rules, but
that's not to say we won't reference it in some shape.
We're not above pandering to fan demand.
Well, I mean, that's why you keep me on this.
That's true. So yeah, I mean, we've got some real gigs lined up for later on in the summer. So yeah, as Charlie says, keep a check on. We're always sharing stuff on Facebook and Twitter, occasionally Instagram, not so much on Instagram, but hey, follow us anyway.
Tweets, and we're on all the podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts from.
And
even if you don't like podcasts, you can listen to these episodes just on our website at retroramble.blog.
Or even if you wanted to, on YouTube. But yeah, obligatory disclaimer of, if you enjoy these podcasts, share with people, tell your friends, tell their friends. And more importantly, if you have a spare couple of minutes, leave us a review on iTunes, because that makes us more visible to more people.
Yeah, so it's been a lot of fun. I've been Charlie McGee.
I've been David Lopan.
No, you haven't. You're nothing. You are nothing. You are not James Hong.
Okay, I am George McGee. But thank you for listening, as always.
Yeah, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Who are these people? Friends of yours, huh? Now, this really pisses me off to no end. Ah?